February 14th, 2023. I'd like to call to order a regular scheduled meeting of the board, mayor, and aldermen. Please rise and join Alderman Massey in our prayer.
Let us pray. Thank you, Father, for laying us down last night and waking us up this morning in the greatest country on this planet, a country we recognize as the United States of America. Father, with all its imperfections, I can't think of anywhere else, no one in this country rather be than right here. And Father, we want to thank you for the men and women who fighting to keep this country safe so we can exercise all our rights. Father, we're praying for everyone who hears this prayer and everyone who doesn't. And as we go forward today in this meeting, Father, we pray that we make fair and just decisions that's well-pleasing in your sight. In the name of the Father and Son, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Ms. Miles.
Join me in the pledge, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. First, our first item of business is to approve minutes of our last regular meeting. If there's no additions, correction of the minutes, we'll stand as approved as mailed. Okay. Our next item, number 2, is to receive and file City Recorder various committee reports.
I move that we receive and file these reports.
Second.
Okay, I have a from Mr. Massey and a second by Mr. Keith. Is that right? Vice versa. Mr. Keith and Mr. Massey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, do we have any concerned citizens' remarks regarding agenda items? Seeing that we do not, we will move on. Next on our agenda is number 4. Consider parade permits for UT Southern Cross Country on 4/1/23 and Rescue Tail Dog rescues for 4/8/23. Mr. Harrison, will you explain that?
Ladies and gentlemen, we brought this up at the work session. We do have a change where the Rescue Tails are going in with Main Street, and the Rescue Tails is having a 5K event that morning, and Main Street is having Saturday on the Square the same day. The 5K is from 7:30 to 12, and the Saturday on the parade is from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. And of course, we know about the UT Southern. They're also having a 5K on April the 1st, unless everybody shows up that hard April Fool. And it's from 7:45 to 9:45, and both of these applications are in order.
I move that we approve these parade permits.
Second.
All righty, we have a motion by Mr. Massey and a second by Mrs. Miles. Do we have a roll call?
Massey?
Aye.
Miles?
Aye.
Worsham?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Gentry?
Aye.
Bryant?
Aye.
Brindley?
Aye.
I think it's the first time we've called them all.
Y'all right.
All right, item number 5 is to open bids on Cascade unit for the fire department. Mr. Harrison, will you explain?
Ladies and gentlemen, this piece of equipment is a piece of equipment that fills the bottles for the self-contained breathing apparatus that the firefighters use when they fight fire. And we also have some of these at the water treatment plant. We have a room down there that we use chlorine gas to help purify the water, and they're required to have that equipment on when they go in there. So I think Jamie and them filled those. They've got a good working relationship. The rescue squad has been filling bottles for them as needed, And I told, Jamie that I thought it'd be a good idea that we return this in favor. Now we've got a new piece of equipment, they need to use ours a while, we'll work together on this type thing. So, we've been using theirs, I figured it's our time to buy. The first bid, when I open up this, it'll tell me who it's from. It's from Tennessee Fire Equipment and Safety Supplies, and they bid $49,450. The second bid is from, it's got an acronym, that's North Alabama Fire Equipment Company, is that right? They bid $49,490.
Wow.
Say that again.
$49,490.
Is that the only two bids we got?
That's it.
I move that we refer these bids to our city administrator and fire chief to review and award.
Second.
We got a motion by Mr. Keith and a second by, who made it?
Ms. Miles.
Ms. Miles. Is there any other discussion? Roll call.
Massey.
Aye.
Miles.
Aye.
Worsham.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Gentry.
Aye.
Bryant.
Aye.
Brindley.
Aye. All right, thank you. Next, item number 6 is opening bids on resurfacing various city streets. Mr. Harrison.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the paving that we have annually in our street department. I would inform you, we've got $390,000 available to us in state funds that we can use for either resurfacing or striping or both. We put that application in with the state. Unfortunately, when we do that, the state makes us have an engineer put it out for bid, hire a geotech, do a environmental study, so it doesn't go as far as our money goes. I wish they'd just write us a check and let us pay for our own streets, but it doesn't work that way. But this is our annual street paving, is what this is. First bid is from Wright Paving. The Municipal Technical Advisory Service came down several years ago and helped us come up with a format of this. And they bid on a lot of different mixes and everything, but pretty much what we look at when we review these bids, we use, I believe it's E-Mix, and we needed the price in place per ton. And we also look at the milling, because some of our streets, the pavement's already high, so we look at the milling cost. So that's where the majority of our paving money goes to, is the milling, laying down, and I don't even know if they've got striping in there. Yeah, they got striping here too. But anyway, this is from Wright Paving. I'm just gonna read out the in-place price for E-Mix. It's $101.96 a ton. I remember when it used to be at 40. Some things have gone up. The milling and they've got different prices for a 4-foot milling machine, a 7-foot. I'm gonna give you the 7-foot per day is $7,250, and the trucking's $120 an hour. And there's other things in here we'll have to look at, but those are the main items that we'll be looking at when we evaluate these bids. Next bid is from Rogers Group. Right there in my pocket knife for this one. They did a good job sealing that one. Okay, the E-mix in place, $122 a ton. The milling on the 7-foot is $12,000, and trucking's $135 an hour.
$12,000 per day.
12,000. And just those two, Chrissy? Okay.
I would, again, refer these to the city administrator and our street department to review with authority to award.
Before I second that, do they not give us a total of what they, or can they give us a total of what that'll cost?
No, because we know how much is in our budget. They will go out and measure the streets. They're different widths. Some of them might be at different depths. But we keep up with the truck tickets, and that's how we do it. And we kind of monitor as along, and we approach toward the end of our budget, we say, shut it off, that's it. I mean, this is not an exact science. I've got at least one guy here in the room that works for a paving contractor. Am I right? It's not an exact science. And, you know, until you start laying it down, we generally do an inch and a half overlay, depends on the condition of the road. Sometimes you gotta undercut a little bit and put down a little bit, heavier material to bring it up. Depends on how many manholes you gotta go around, how many valve stems you got. There's a lot more to paving than people realize.
Yeah.
Feathered out over the driveways, it's hard to estimate. I've got an engineer here, can you explain any better than I did?
You did a really good job.
I'm telling you.
And one more thing, I would like, I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but, I feel that we're going to approve this, which I will second, but, I would like, when it's all finalized, what we're gonna do and where we're gonna pave, I would love to have a list of all the streets that this paving is gonna.
Well, we can give you a list of what we think we're gonna do. But once again, until they get out there and start laying it and everything, the list we might not get through the list.
Yeah,
I mean, we put the list together, we don't know how much his bid was.
yeah.
So-
But at least we'll have an idea.
Yeah.
At least we prove something, we'll have an idea of what we're approving
We
and
can-
where it's gonna be approved at.
Well, we can give you the list and just remember, it's a guideline.
Yeah.
It's our best estimate
Yeah.
of what we're gonna do.
Okay, I second that.
All right. We have a motion by Mr. Keith and a second by Mr. Massey. Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Massey?
Aye.
Miles?
Aye.
Worsham?
Aye.
Keith? Gentry? Bryant? Brindley?
Aye. Number 8, to consider transfer property of industrial development board. Mr. Harrison, explain.
We skipped number 7.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wrote down the wrong things. Thank you. Agenda, number 7, consider an ordinance on first reading, relative to the rezoning of the IDB property on Bunker Hill Road.
And this is IDB property, but part of it is what I refer to as integrity number 2. It's in the name of the IDB because they've got a pilot. Integrity wanted to acquire some land to the north end of their existing lot. they had a little piece that kind of went to the east of their property. David Hamilton worked with them in doing a swap. It'll square up lot 15 and then just extend their lot back a little further where they add on. They've got a room to add on to the rear of their building. If you recall, David came to us maybe a year ago or so about asking to rezone lots 15 and lot 5 from I-1 to I-2. That way, if we had a client that came in that needed something that was zoned I-2, we would have it already zoned, but everything you do in I-1, you can do in I-2. So the integrity site is still zoned I-1, lot 15 is zoned I-2. So to make them all the same, the piece that they're acquiring from the IDB was I-2, we're gonna move it from I-2 to I-1, and the piece that we're acquiring, the IDB is acquiring from Integrity, it was zoned I-1, gonna move it to I-2. Now, if that ain't clear as mud, I don't know how I can say it. Any questions on that? I know it's a little confusing, but, we're swapping two pieces of property, and we're also swapping the zoning on it.
And this just cleans everything up.
Yeah,
I move that we adopt this ordinance on first reading.
and this is a recommendation from the planning commission.
Second.
All right, we have a, first by Mr. Keith and a second by Mrs. Miles. Do we have any discussion? All righty, roll call.
Massey.
Aye.
Miles.
Aye.
Worsham.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Gentry.
Aye.
Bryant.
Aye.
Friendly.
Aye.
We need to set a hearing for that, don't we, too?
Do we need to set a hearing for that?
Not for rezoning, or do we?
Well, on annexation, we would. On the rezoning for this, because it's gonna be industrial, I'd have a hearing, but we won't have to post it. So, set a public hearing.
All right. We'll do that
Okay,
then.
with your permission, Mayor, my suggestion, we set a public hearing for it'd be February the 28th at 12:15 p.m.
That's fine.
2280, what time?
12:05.
Is what we usually do, is it not?
Well, it depends on where we put it on the agenda.
Okay, 12:15 is fine.
We'll put
That's
it
fine with me.
Yeah, we'll wait.
All right. Next, I guess any discussion on that? We'll move on, all right. Number 8 is to consider transfer of property to Industrial Development Board. Mr. Harrison.
Ladies and gentlemen, we own property out off of Mines Road in the Industrial Park North. It lays back behind the property we recently acquired from Donnie Meadows, where the old Oakwood Homes plant was that burned. That gives you a location. We have been approached by a group that like to buy that property. If the city were to sell it, we'd either have to do it through a public auction or sealed bids. And what we've done in the past with this type thing is we deed this property to IDB. Under state law, the IDB can negotiate with these people with that. And I think this is a good thing to do. Most of that land is in the 100-year floodplain. There's no utilities to that site right now. It might be a good place for some warehousing. That's in a zone that you'd have to build it up 3 foot above the highest adjacent grade, so it would be pretty expensive, to build back there. And I would like to see y'all deed this property to IDB, them negotiate with these people that are wanting to buy it, and then the IDB would reimburse us the money back. Now, Mr. Hoover, you would do the deed from the city to the
To
IDB,
the IDB,
and then the IDB would do the deed.
to the ultimate purchaser.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Did you, I'm sorry if I missed, did you say how many acres this is, or?
It's about 60, I believe.
60, yeah, okay, thank you.
I make a motion, we transfer this property to the IDB.
I'll second
We have a motion by Mr. Massey and a second by Mr. Bryant. Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Massey,
Aye.
Miles,
Aye.
Worsham,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Gentry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Brindley.
Aye. The last number 9, is there any old business? Ms. Sandra?
It's been a couple of years since I've been here, and about half of it's changed out since I was here last time, so that's why I'm back. I had a big issue with one of my neighbors, and I came up here and told the council that I had laying hens in 4-H, and I was ticketed eventually and made to get rid of them. That's grown. There is more and more people now that have them in their backyards, and they're hiding them with fences and
Where? I'm sorry.
laying hens.
Oh, chickens, okay.
Right, and, I really want y'all to think about, we need this for food. This is not just something for fun, Carlos, my son, learned so much when he was raising those. And it was his job, he was up at daylight feeding them, and, when we got rid of them and rehomed them, we got a dog, and she is louder and makes a bigger mess, and she don't give us nothing but love. Those chickens people don't realize, if you have 4 to 6 in your backyard, you have a coop, they have one down here at Tractor Supply that holds 6, they are not messy. They are not, people think of a big chicken house. It does smell, but you put 4 or 6 in the backyard, you take care of them, you feed them, they're not loud. Hens are not loud. That's another misconception that people have. And one thing that's not fair about this ordinance here, and it burns me up, is you can have 20 chickens in the city of Pulaski if you have 5 acres. And I just don't think that's fair. I don't think it should be according to how much land you have on how many land hens, 4 land hens you put in your backyard for food. I just don't think that's fair. I don't think that's giving everybody an equal playing field. And, I just want you to really consider it. I know y'all are getting ready to have another session where you're gonna look at that. And, just, please try to make it, if you're gonna pass it, make it fair so everyone can have that opportunity.
Just a quick summary here, and I'm new to this. What sounds fair to you? What would be fair?
What sounds fair is, maybe your coop has to set so many feet from a property line. If somebody's got less than an acre, I don't know, 10 feet is enough. I'm telling you, my neighbors loved it when we had them. And that was one of the things they said, you can't smell them and they're not loud. And they would send their grandkids over to watch them. I'd rather have a chickens than a dog any day. I love our dog since we got her. He had to have something else because that was his ESA, was those chickens for his emotional health. And we got a dog and he loves her, but she is a lot more trouble than those 4 chickens were. And just have maybe a 10-foot property line. Keep your chickens in the middle in a fenced-in area. No free range. We got some over here that's free range, but I've been told that's county. They're running out in the street and stuff over there by Exchange Park where it splits off, but I've been told that's county right there.
It is.
Yeah.
But I can, when I open my back door in the mornings, I can hear a rooster crowing. They're here. You gotta make it fair for everybody. Should have the same playing field for everybody. I don't care if you've got a certain size lot or you've got 5 acres. Everybody should be able to have the opportunity. And if you check on the surrounding counties here, everybody has chickens. Lawrenceburg does not even have an ordinance. Ardmore talked to the lady down at Tractor Supply the other day. She said, well, I don't even think they have an ordinance. She has chickens. You can check any city limits anywhere around us, and everybody has laying hens. Nashville, you have laying hens. You know, and we're a rural, small town right here, people, and we do not allow people to have laying hens. It's behind the times, it really is. I mean, we have Nashville, the size of Nashville, Lawrenceburg, they're a lot bigger than us. They don't even have an ordinance up there on them, which I'm against letting a lot of chickens run free range in town. They're gonna get killed, you know, it's gonna be problems. Just fenced in backyard in a coop. You know, if they don't have a place for them to run, keep them up.
Sure.
You can put up a temporary fence around the coop and let them run that day and then put them up at night. I don't understand why this is such a big deal. I can't understand it.
Well, give us a
Somebody
couple.
explain it to me.
Well, I appreciate you saying and explaining to it very nicely. Let us talk and look at some different ordinances out there, and we'll see if we can come up to something. We have your contact information,
All right.
and we will definitely contact you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, would you remind me your name? I remember when you.
Sandra Hayes, I forgot to say that one.
I remembered when you came
Yeah.
before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a suggestion quickly. I'm new here, I apologize. My name's Dave Shippert, by the way. I certainly support Ms. Sanders,
Yeah.
what she was saying. But when you ask about which kind of guidelines should we have, there I might suggest that I've seen on national news, a lot of these businesses are renting out coops and laying hens because of the price of eggs. And I suspect that all these businesses who are farmers, they have their own guidelines for, are you gonna rent a coop for chickens to these people in this circumstance? And they would have a lot of good ideas for what kind of guidelines should there be for how much land, how much fencing, what type of fencing, that kind of thing. So just a suggestion from that score,
No.
the
Thank you.
businesses are out there doing this.
Thank you for your comment.
So, one question, a lot of the cities don't allow roosters. Is that a problem for you?
No, roosters are, the only reason you have a rooster is so you can multiply your stock. That's not what it's about. It's just about having eggs. Chickens still lay eggs without roosters. You don't have to have a rooster. Yeah, roosters would be noisy, which I love to hear a rooster crow. I love animals. I wouldn't care if you put animals all over the place around here, but you can't do that. But roosters are noisy. I hear one, I can stand in my backyard and hear one. But see, it don't make sense about having 4 laying hens over here in the coop, and I got cows 2 yards over behind me, and I for the life of me, I can't understand it.
Hey, one quick thing that I just might add, and I've heard them too. We've addressed that. We got one down here close to the police department that we hear. We've been addressing that in the past, and if we know about it, we do address those. The biggest caveat on the fowl ordinance or chicken ordinance or whatever you want to call it, the 5 acres, I think you can have chickens 5 acres if that 5 acres is zoned in commercial, but I don't think you can have any chickens in a residential area. Is that right? Regardless of the size. That chicken ordinance, when you read it, it sounds like you could have every kind of chicken in the world, but when you get down to that last little paragraph on page 7,000, it'll tell you that it's not permitted anywhere in it's zoned residential. So the property size wouldn't really matter. If it's zoned residential, it doesn't matter how many acres you have, to my understanding, and Andy, you correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay. All right. Yeah, anybody else? Any new business? I'll just state, we, this Saturday, we have our strategic planning at 8:30. I think Mr. Keith might have passed out a few things for you, but just come with your ideas, and we're looking forward to putting our head together.
I do have one piece of new business. And we talked about this at our work session this past Monday, and Mr. Hoover put together a resolution for us to adopt today, and I'll just read it, and then explain the reason behind it. Whereas the city of Pulaski, Tennessee is required and authorized to issue several and various permits and licenses, and whereas these permits and licenses are specific in scope and purpose, and whereas the issuance of any permit or license by the city grants certain permissions and/or actions, be it hereby resolved that the issuance of any permits or license by the city does not in any way disregard or nullify any existing municipal, state, or federal codes, laws, or requirements, and be it further resolved that it is incumbent on the applicant and recipient of any permit or license from the city to research and comply with all applicable, say that 3 times real fast, municipal, state, and federal statutes, codes, and regulations, and also be it further resolved that this resolution be added as addendum to all current permits and licenses and as addition to all future permits and licenses. The purpose of this resolution, it doesn't, as Mr. Hoover told us at our work session, it doesn't change law, it doesn't make law, it doesn't create law. It just clarifies that in any given situation where the city issues a permit or a license, all state, federal, and municipal laws apply. You know, the example was given that in the city of Pulaski, we don't have a code that says you can't murder, but we all understand that there are laws that say you can't. So all the laws that are existing and in place be applied, and also that it, again, that it's incumbent upon the applicant to research whatever project they're working on. If they get a building permit, they're responsible to know the building codes, the fire codes, and research and find those out. And I would move that we would adopt this resolution.
One of the things, I mean, I 100% agree with you on that, but one of the things that I disagree on is that you take a person that's not aware of some of the codes. I think the building inspector should educate he or she on that, what's required in this permit. Because some people are just blind. See, ignorant don't mean you're dumb, that's just a lack of knowledge. So sometimes you may not be blind, you may not be educated on the facts, but sometimes people need a little more knowledge in what they're doing. Because if the public gets out there and start well, first of all, he or she got to get a building permit, but sometimes people are not aware of all the things that's involved in, goes along with it, and they got to call the building inspector to come and look. I mean, to do various things, because if you don't, I mean, it could cause a lot of confusion with he or she, in my book.
Mr. Harrison, do you feel it is your responsibility to educate everyone that applies for a building permit?
Well, it depends. I mean, some people will call and ask questions that, that I help them with. I mean, probably the biggest thing is decks. They don't know how far apart the guardrails are. It's 4 inches. A lot of people don't know that your handrails have to have graspability. They'll turn a 2x4 or 1x6 up, and that doesn't meet code. And I help them with that. But I don't think it's my responsibility. I had one guy call me and said, wanted me to write a list down of everything he had to do to build a duplex. Well, he needs a licensed contractor to do that for him. So I don't mind helping out with the small things, but I mean, it's not the buildings. We inspect what people build. We don't tell them how to build it. We get in the building business, we're getting a whole different ball game. But I don't mind helping somebody when they ask a small technical question. But I mean, some of the things they just have to have somebody that knows what they're doing, that can help them with that. Because I mean, Be like Brindley Construction Company coming to me and ask me to draw them a set of plans to build a building. I'm not qualified to do that. And they have people either on the payroll or they hire consultants to do that, even a company the size as their company. Some of y'all here built things before. And I mean, you know, there's licensed contractors here in the county that know the codes. But like I said, I don't mind helping people. It just depends on the limit of what they want.
I think to help you out, Randy, we've discussed this because we're involved in telling people that we know about to have to get a building permit. There's two ways to get a permit in this town. One is you know you gotta get one and you get it, and then there's one that you don't know to get it and you don't get it, and for whatever reason. And I think the awareness you're talking about is, most people know that if they get a licensed contractor, the contractor knows that they're supposed to get the required permits and that kind of thing. But it's these other people, a lot of these things that go unnoticed until we see it after the fact that they should have had a permit, is sort of they get some little maintenance guy to do a little add-on or close in a carport or build a deck or something that they think they can do that, and some of them probably know they should, but then there's others that probably don't know that, I'm building a deck to my house, that I need to get a permit for that. That's the awareness, not how to build a deck, but what I need before I start building the deck, as far as permits go. And I think that's the information that the people, if there's a way to get it out to them that says, hey, this is what's required, anytime you start a building project, you should contact the building inspector to see if it's
Like we've
required.
got 2 historical districts in town, and if they're making any improvements on that, they have to go to the historic zoning. It's incumbent on somebody that buys a piece of property, they need to know that they bought a house in the historical zone. I mean, we don't go around knocking on doors when somebody buys a house up around Martin College and say, hey, you know you're in the historic zone, don't you? You know, that's something that the realtor or the homeowners need to pass that information along to them. And then there's other hoops they have to jump through if they are in the historic district.
In that particular situation, I experienced. I bought a house in the historic zone, and I was responsible to know what I could and couldn't do. That was my responsibility. I just think it's fair to our builders and developers that meet code and follow the regulations, that we just make it clear that anybody that would build or develop or a beer permit, that it applies to them. People that make application for a beer permit, they know that there are state laws that they have to follow. And that was the whole purpose of this resolution, is just to clarify that when you're given a permit, license, or anything from the city, it's incumbent upon you to understand all the laws and regulations that are required that go with that.
Well, now, I just have a question, occurs to me. If we pass this, well, what are the repercussions for someone who does not follow the rules? They don't know it, and they just go out there and sort of, by the seat of the pants, they put it.
Same repercussions there are today. If we find out about something.
There is the rub, if we find out about it. If we don't find out about it, you can do whatever you wanna do. But if we find out about it, you can't.
And this would have nothing to do with that. People that wanted to skirt the law would still skirt the law. One of the situations we have that speaks to that point, we had someone start a remodeling project for a particular type of building and business, and then found out that they did not meet the codes. So what would have happened had they known or had they researched and done their homework, they would have known what was required, but now they've done a lot of work that they're gonna have to undo and then do it right, so it's costing them twice as much. Had they just done their research on the front end, it wouldn't have cost them in the long run. So this is actually to the benefit of those that would build or get permitted on anything.
And then what happens is we get blamed because we didn't inform them of the rules that they should have researched and done their homework. So where does to me it's a line drawn. Where is the area of personal responsibility drawn? The line drawn. And if you get pulled over for speeding oh, and you didn't know what the speed limit was, do you think the officer is gonna say, well, we don't have to give you a ticket? That's a silly example, I know, just like the murder thing, but I think at some point, we try to, and Terry tries to give them all the information, but sometimes they don't give him all the information either.
Yeah.
So there are areas that are out of our control,
Well, and keep in
like a
mind,
situation like he was talking about, that should have gone further and
Yeah.
contacted.
Yeah, I know that
somebody.
particular situation.
and keep in mind, I don't think Mr. Keith's intent of this is just about the building code, it's for every.
It's for every license,
Yes.
every permit,
I mean-
anything that we issue as a city. And I guess that, you know, I didn't think it would be that debatable, but to just say that, everyone is responsible to follow the law, but,
Yeah.
that's basically all it says.
Yeah. I mean, we have people come in, we had one in, right before we started this meeting, a guy came in and bought a business license. We sold him a business license. Now, we didn't tell him might need to get a tax ID number, but most people, depending on the business, end, need a tax ID number. But I mean.
But there again, that's incumbent upon him to know that
Right,
and meet
right.
those,
Well,
meet those
and
requirements.
the other thing is, sometimes people wanna get a building permit and it's not in the right zone. And I believe it's correct, if somebody asks to buy a building permit, we're required to sell them to them. Now, you might find out later they can't put it. Like they wanna do a paint shop in the backyard in a residential neighborhood. You can't do that. It's against our zoning ordinance. But, you know, they need to ask the questions or do the research, you know, when they buy that business license.
And I'm gonna say one more thing. In my opinion, when he or she, let's just say when they build a home, it should be pushed a little further that that person is responsible then for knowing all the city ordinance that goes along with that house. For example, I know I pushed it 1,000 times about dogs. He or she should know the dog ordinance, about the dog go in the backyard, how high the fence should be, you know, and all those things. If we gon'
And Randy, to that point, you're exactly right, because, and Mr. Hoover will attest to this, I didn't know is not a defense in court, is it, Mr. Hoover?
It's not.
So it's not a defense in court, so it is, you know, even responsible dog owners have to understand that there are codes and ordinances that they have to abide by.
yeah.
I have a question. We're new here, but we read the ordinances for the town before we came today, and there are some ordinances that are just blatant, I mean, blatant disrespect by so many people here. Why aren't those ordinances upheld? Like, for instance, nobody here takes their trash can in. They leave them out on the street all week. They get knocked over. It's an eyesore. But yet, you talk about all these other ordinances, that one's easy, just go ticket them all. You'll make lots of revenue.
All right.
I mean, why? In downtown, all your businesses leave their trash cans overflowing on the sidewalks. Is there a reason why that ordinance is not important?
Well, the downtown area is picked up daily.
So the trash cans are supposed to stay out there all the time?
Well, I don't know about that, but they are picked up daily.
Some of them are permanent, I think. Now, I don't know about the rolling carts, but there's some that are mounted in place.
No, those are like for people
Right,
that are
okay,
walking down.
I'm not sure what else.
But the big green trash
Oh,
cans,
okay.
we ate dinner at Southern Table the other night, for instance, and we almost turned around and left, because outside of the restaurant were 2 cans overflowing with nasty garbage. I mean, that's an ordinance that's got to be.
That's not necessarily the city though either. I mean, they can put that dumpster behind their building if it's overflowing.
Well,
Well, they may put it out the night before for pickup the next day,
Exactly.
depending on when the pickup schedule is, so it'd be hard to answer that not knowing
the specifics.
But you're right, there are people around town, they are, you know, after their trash can is emptied, they are required to bring it back to their house. In our areas, they don't do. We've got the same problem, they don't put the polycart facing the wrong way on the curb, and when our one-arm truck empties it, it'll break the lid off. And so we advertised through the local news media, about a year ago about informing people the proper way to put their polycart at the curb. Those are problems you have dealing with 8,500 people.
Well, I
And these are the
understand
reasons
that.
we're bringing this up, these things are here. We're working to progress here in our
We're not
community.
picking and choosing the ordinance. That was the whole purpose of this clarity resolution, that to define, or to just make clear the fact that all codes that are in place are you're responsible as a citizen, and we're responsible on the other side.
Because it's actually we live on College Street, and it's actually dangerous when somebody hits one of those cans. You know, they're not looking and they hit a can. I was walking my dogs the other day and the can flew at me and the garbage went everywhere. I mean, I picked it up, but, because I couldn't stand to see it, but it's dangerous on College Street. You just leave them all out there and, you know, somebody doesn't look and somebody hits a can, and if you're walking or even if you're not, you know, it's dangerous. So I think, you know, everybody should be aware that somebody's gonna get hurt.
Thank you for your comments, ma'am.
I would reiterate my motion to adopt this resolution.
Do I need a second? I second that.
That'd be a roll call. Roll call.
Massey,
Aye.
Miles,
Pass.
Worsham,
Aye.
Keith,
Aye.
Gentry, Bryant,
Aye.
Brindley,
Aye.
Miles,
No.
is there any other old business?
No. If there's no other business, any other old business come for us, we'll stand as adjourned.